I'm delighted to have this opportunity to thank the people of Flanders, and especially Ypres and members of the Last Post Association, for continuing to honor the sacrifice of our fallen.
The absolute heaviest silence the modern British monarchy has ever witnessed did not happen behind the closed, soundproof doors of Buckingham Palace. It happened in broad daylight on a freezing cold November morning in 2025, right in the middle of the National Service of Remembrance at the Cenotaph. Every single camera in the United Kingdom was rolling, broadcasting live to millions around the globe, when a frail, 90-year-old war veteran pulled off the most calculated, cold-blooded, and devastating insult the royal family has ever seen. Standing there, newly widowed and visibly weak, Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, turned his back completely on the Queen of England. This wasn't the slow, uncertain movement of an elderly man losing his bearings or getting confused in a crowd. He looked straight at Camilla, he registered exactly who she was, and he turned completely away from her like she was an absolute nobody. He treated the sitting Queen Consort as if she wasn't standing a mere 3 feet away from him, acting as though she wasn't even worth the basic effort of a polite nod. The chilling silence that followed that exact moment was the loudest thing on that plaza, sending an immediate shockwave through every senior royal standing in that sacred space. But the public snub was only the opening salvo of a much larger, catastrophic crisis that the Duke of Kent unleashed that day. After completely dismissing Camilla, he deliberately bypassed her and moved directly toward Catherine, the Princess of Wales. He took her hand, locking eyes with her, and held on to it significantly longer than standard royal protocol or the solemn moment called for. Then, under the watchful, panicked eyes of palace officials, the elderly Duke leaned incredibly close to Catherine's ear and whispered a secret message that only she could hear. It was a message so direct, so deliberate, and so final that the moment Camilla's camp figured out what had been spoken, an absolute structural emergency erupted behind palace walls. Camilla was reportedly so utterly furious and deeply threatened that she went straight to King Charles, demanding he launch an immediate intervention to shut the Duke of Kent down. But in a move that has left the entire royal household completely paralyzed, Charles listened to his wife's frantic demands, looked her in the eye, and told her a flat, uncompromising no. The online community and royal enthusiasts are completely losing their minds over the footage, with many pointing out that the sheer panic on Camilla's face was impossible to hide. A lot of viewers have started reacting to the video, with one passionately stating that Camilla is not the Queen of England, that the only true queen was Queen Elizabeth, and that Camilla couldn't even fill Queen Elizabeth's shadow. The internet is practically screaming for answers, because the decision the Duke of Kent made at that ceremony isn't just about a family feud, it is about to completely reshape the multi-million-dollar jewelry inheritance of the British monarchy in a way that Camilla Parker Bowles cannot stop, cannot override, and cannot take back. To truly understand the terrifying weight of what happened at that cenotaph, you have to peel back the layers of history and look at the man behind the uniform. You have to realize who this 90-year-old Duke actually is, because without that context, you cannot possibly feel the massive tectonic earthquake shifting underneath what looks on the surface like an old man turning his back at a memorial service. Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, has held his prestigious title for over 82 years, making him the longest-serving duke in British history. He and King Charles are the only 2 men in the entire royal family who hold the rare elite rank of Field Marshal in the British Army. This is a man who has watched kings die and queens be crowned. He has sat in the shadows and watched this ancient institution survive world wars, bitter family betrayals, public humiliations, constitutional crises, and scandals that would have completely destroyed any ordinary family. He has been in the rooms where actual history was made, keeping the secrets of those conversations in total, unbroken silence for decades. Men of his specific generation understood a profound truth that modern celebrity culture has forgotten. Silence was not a sign of weakness. Silence was the ultimate discipline.
When you look at his incredible life, it makes perfect sense why people are calling him an honorable man, praising him as someone who put himself last in everything he has done without ever wanting anything back. For 9 long decades, the Duke of Kent kept his discipline absolutely flawless. He served the crown, he made his appearances, and he never said a single word that was not explicitly required of him. He was the model of royal restraint. And then, on that cold November morning, something inside him permanently shifted. He had stood at the Cenotaph dozens of times before throughout his long life. He knew its exact weight, its deep national meaning, and he knew that every high-powered lens and camera on that plaza was pointed directly at the assembled royals. He chose that highly sensitive, incredibly public moment not by accident, and certainly not out of confusion. He chose it with complete, calculated, and deliberate intention to deliver a final verdict. The root of the intense contempt the Duke of Kent carried toward Camilla was not constructed overnight. It was built slowly, brick by brick, in absolute silence across 3 decades of watching her maneuvers from the sidelines. There is no softer word for what he was harboring than pure, unadulterated hatred. And it all began with the blood-stained legacy of his mother, Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark. Princess Marina carried an incredibly rare imperial royal bloodline that ran directly into the ill-fated Romanov dynasty, the Russian imperial family that was marched into a dark basement in Yekaterinburg in 1918 and brutally executed without a trial. Every single piece of historic jewelry that Princess Marina wore carried that heavy, tragic history inside its settings. The family collection was legendary: the breathtaking sapphire Cambridge Peru, the magnificent Kent pearl festoon tiara, the rare diamond girandole earrings, the pearl fringe tiara, and the completely remodeled diamond bandeau that had once belonged directly to Queen Mary herself. These priceless pieces did not simply survive changing fashion seasons, they survived a literal massacre. They survived the chaos of 2 world wars and a financial crisis so devastating that the Duke and Duchess of Kent were eventually forced to quietly sell off some of their most precious pieces to private buyers just to keep their estate afloat. The sapphire tiara was sold off, the matching necklace vanished into private hands, and the stunning stomacher disappeared completely, with the identity of the buyers never being fully confirmed to the public. What remained of the collection was the broken, fiercely guarded remnant of what had once been one of the greatest private royal jewelry collections in the United Kingdom. And the 90-year-old man standing at the Cenotaph, with Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, physically holding him upright, was the last living person on earth who remembered the imperial hands that first wore them. He was the sole remaining custodian of a tragic historic lineage, and whatever he decided to do with those final surviving jewels was never going to be a casual choice. A deeply moved observer recently sent much love to the Duke of Kent for his absolute integrity, and honestly, the world agrees. He was carrying the weight of the past, the memories of a destroyed dynasty, and a mounting rage over how the modern palace was treating the legacy of the women he loved.
The second that quiet, clinical refusal leaked out into the broader media ecosystem, the public fascination didn't just grow, it completely erupted into a global obsession. Behind closed doors, royal watchers are already whispering about the absolute storm that must have hit the palace when the Duke of Kent leaned in and delivered his final, secret message to the Princess of Wales. He looked right at Catherine and told her that his mother's legacy was absolutely not going to end up around the neck of someone with no right to wear it. The craziest part of this whole thing? He didn't even say Camilla's name. He didn't need to. Everyone in that freezing, sacred space already understood exactly who he meant. The atmosphere shifted immediately, and something that had lived in absolute suffocating silence for over 30 years was finally spoken out loud in broad daylight. This is why so many people are reacting online by saying he can give the jewelry to whomever he wishes, and he chose incredibly well.
The sheer boldness of it has left everyone completely stunned. Camilla found out within hours. Every single detail of what the Duke had done, what he said, and exactly who had been watching reached her before the day was over, and to say she was not composed about it would be the understatement of the century. That very same evening, the moment the solemn cenotaph ceremony ended, Camilla went straight to Charles. She didn't come to him in tears. She came with a case, carefully constructed and delivered with pure, chilling precision. She told him that the Duke's gesture was not some private matter between a grieving old man and a younger royal woman. She framed it as a massive, dangerous, institutional problem. A senior royal, the longest-serving duke in British history, and a field marshal of the British Army, had just publicly endorsed Catherine's claim to private imperial jewelry right over the standing of the sitting Queen Consort. To do that at the Cenotaph, at one of the most photographed and sacred ceremonies in the royal calendar, completely undermined the hierarchy of the crown. Charles listened, because he always listens to Camilla. She has shaped more hidden decisions inside this monarchy than the public will ever be permitted to know. And historically, she has almost never lost an argument with Charles that she truly wanted to win. But this time, something completely unprecedented happened. Charles didn't move. He looked straight at her and told her that the Duke was entirely entitled to his own private decisions. He said it, and then he was done. Camilla left the conversation in a state of total, freezing silence, and the people who know her well understand that her silence after losing an argument is never acceptance. It is the beginning of something else entirely. But here is the massive, critical mistake Camilla made when she built her case. The Duke of Kent's jewels were never hers to claim by any royal rule in existence. The pieces the Duke holds are completely private property. They are not the crown jewels which belong to the monarchy and pass from sovereign to sovereign, nor are they part of the royal collection which belongs to the institution. They belong to the Duke personally, meaning he can gift them, sell them, or leave them in his will to whoever he decides, with zero obligation to anyone, including the Queen of England. As for Camilla's own position, her place in the hierarchy was already documented, and her jewelry for her reign was securely in place. Nobody was challenging that. But a title on paper and a crown with your name engraved on it mean absolutely nothing if the people who have spent their entire lives inside the institution look right through you when they see you. And that is exactly what was eating Camilla alive. People watching this unfold online are completely rejoicing, with many openly celebrating that the Duke made sure she didn't get her grubby hands on them. There is a fierce consensus among traditionalists that just because someone is given a title doesn't mean they are entitled to grab whatever family history they want. Charles's total refusal to intervene reveals the incredible, untouchable power the Duke of Kent still holds over the king, even now, at 90 years old. The Duke is not someone Charles can just silence with a phone call or redirect with a quiet private conversation. He belongs to a generation of Windsors that existed long before Charles created the absolute messes that nearly destroyed the monarchy. Before the affair with Camilla, before the public humiliation of Diana, and before the divorce that scandalized the entire world. The men of the Duke's generation held the line. They placed the crown above their own desires, their own comfort, and every personal want, doing it completely without complaint. Charles did not always do that, and the entire world watched what happened when he failed. The Duke of Kent watched it happen from the inside, and now, every single time Charles walks into a room where the Duke is standing, both men carry the full, heavy knowledge of what sits between them. Charles knows that the Duke remembers everything, the affair, the betrayal, and the years the family chose protecting its own image over protecting the young woman it had brought inside its walls. That is a power no royal command can ever take away from a man who holds it. Charles saw Camilla's case, he understood the threat, and he still chose to let the Duke of Kent stand. It makes you wonder if deep down the king knows exactly how much damage was done in the past, and he simply doesn't have the stomach to fight the old guard on this. The public is looking at Charles's role in this with a lot of bitterness, pointing out that he always put himself before the crown and his family, which is why he stands completely powerless against a man of true, lifelong honor. The stage is now set for a massive structural shift, and the consequences of this refusal are about to ripple through the palace for years to come.
By the way, before we dive into the genius legal loophole that makes this entire move a tactical masterpiece, we have to clear up a massive, chaotic mess that has people practically throwing shoes at their screens. If you've been looking at the comments online, people are getting absolutely heated because there is a total royal identity crisis happening. Everyone keeps getting their Prince Edwards completely twisted. Let's set the record straight right now so you can gossip about this accurately with your friends. The man who pulled off this legendary snub at the Cenotaph is not King Charles's younger brother. That's Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, the one married to Sophie. The mastermind behind this entire Sapphire Rebellion is the other Prince Edward, the 90-year-old Duke of Kent. He is the late Queen Elizabeth's first cousin, a total old-school military man and the ultimate keeper of the family secrets. It's his frail arm that Sophie was holding to keep him steady, but his mind is sharp as a paper cut. So when people online are getting furious because some videos are showing clips of the wrong Prince Edward, you can officially tell them to calm down. The man of the hour is the Duke of Kent, and his integrity is exactly why the internet is cheering him on for showing his complete distaste for all of Camilla's behind-the-scenes shenanigans. Now that we have our princes sorted, let's talk about the absolute chess move the Duke pulled to protect these jewels, because the logistics are brilliant. The deeper question everyone keeps asking is why wouldn't he just pass these breathtaking imperial treasures down to his own children? He has 3 kids, George, the Earl of St. Andrews, Lord Nicholas Windsor, and Lady Helen Taylor. On paper, it seems like they should be the ones inheriting their grandmother Princess Marina's gorgeous Romanov sapphires and pearls. But here is the brutal reality of modern Britain that the Duke had to confront. None of his children are working royals. They live completely private, ordinary lives outside the palace spotlight. And if a massive, historic collection of private royal jewelry passes down to private citizens, the British government immediately steps in with a crushing, astronomical inheritance tax bill. We are talking about millions of dollars that his children would have to pay the state up front just to keep their own family heirlooms. To pay off a tax bill that massive, his kids would be forced to do one of 2 heartbreaking things. They would either have to quietly lock the historic pieces away in a dark, high-security bank vault where no one would ever see them again, or they would have to auction them off to the highest-bidding foreign billionaire, breaking up Princess Marina's legacy for parts and watching it vanish from the British crown forever. The Duke absolutely refused to let that happen. By stepping completely outside the traditional family lines and gifting the collection directly to Catherine, the Princess of Wales, he executed the ultimate legal loophole. Because Catherine is the future queen and a senior working royal representing the nation, these jewels stay safely inside the institutional framework, completely shielded from the devastating tax traps that would have destroyed them. People are absolutely flooded with gratitude over this, with one royal fan explicitly thanking the Duke for ensuring these pieces go to Catherine so they can eventually be passed down to little Princess Charlotte, who will undoubtedly cherish them just as much. It is a foolproof plan to keep history alive, and it leaves Camilla completely stranded on the sidelines, with absolutely nothing to say about it. And let's look at the incredible poetry behind the specific jewels he chose to save, because the history here is enough to give you chills. The crown jewel of this entire dispute is the Cambridge sapphire parure, and the word Cambridge is the ultimate trigger for a reason. Long before William and Catherine were ever given the titles of Prince and Princess of Wales, the entire world knew them as the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. That was the very first title they held together when they married, the title that defined the first decade of their public life and the birth of their children.
But the history of those specific sapphires goes back over 200 years, weaving through a direct, unbroken line of iconic royal women. It started all the way back with Princess Augusta, the original Duchess of Cambridge in the early 1800s. From her, the sapphires passed to her daughter, then straight into the personal collection of Queen Mary, who eventually gave them to the Duke of Kent's mother, Princess Marina, as a spectacular wedding gift in 1934. By ensuring these specific stones land in Catherine's hands, the Duke isn't just handing her some pretty accessories, he is connecting her to a 2-century-old thread of royal resilience. He is declaring to the entire world that Catherine is the true, legitimate successor to that grand lineage of historic women, a lineage that completely bypasses Camilla Parker Bowles. This brings us to the real, unspoken reason why the old guard is so fiercely protective of Catherine, and why they are willing to completely humiliate Camilla to lift her up. For the past 14 years, Catherine has mastered a very rare, quiet art that nobody else in that family seems to understand: the art of wearing history. When Catherine steps out under the flashing lights of a state banquet, she doesn't treat the royal jewelry collection like a costume box or a personal status symbol to flaunt her wealth. She treats every single tiara, necklace, and earring as a sacred trust. When she wears Diana's famous pearls or Queen Elizabeth's historic diamonds, she is making a deliberate, emotional promise to the public that the women who came before her will never be forgotten or erased by palace politics. The crowd feels that genuine reverence every single time she walks into a room, and it is a kind of natural, effortless magic that Camilla has never been able to manufacture, no matter how many heavy crowns Charles places on her head. The contrast between the two women is so incredibly sharp that one commentator perfectly summed up what the entire world is thinking, stating that Catherine could wear literal leather and beads around her neck, and she would still look 10 times more beautiful, dignified, and regal than Camilla ever could in a $1 million tiara. The public can spot true grace from a mile away, and the Duke of Kent knew exactly what he was doing when he chose the future queen to guard his family's soul. The profound silence left vibrating behind the palace walls after that freezing November morning has officially welded the gates shut with a level of finality that has left the entire modern royal landscape completely reeling. The fallout from this masterstroke continues to ripple through every corridor of Buckingham Palace, but the true, ultimate climax of this entire saga won't happen behind closed doors or in private meetings. It is going to happen in the most public way imaginable. The very first time Catherine walks into a major state occasion or a lavish diplomatic banquet wearing the spectacular Kent pearl festoon tiara or those breathtaking diamond girandole earrings. When that historic day finally comes, it won't just be a beautiful woman standing in front of flashbulbs in a stunning piece of jewelry. It will be the ultimate, unanswerable historical vindication. It will be Princess Marina's survival and her deep imperial dignity reaching directly out of the past and into the modern era, bringing that tragic, blood-stained Romanov history into the bright lights of a 21st century state banquet for every single world leader to see. A deeply moved royal watcher recently shared how intensely they hope the Duke of Kent stays with us, alert and healthy, long enough to actually see the Princess of Wales wear these incredible treasures in public. And honestly, it would be the most poetic, beautiful ending to his 90 years of quiet service. He didn't just protect these jewels from a crushing tax burden or a forgotten dark vault, he placed them on the absolute rightful path. And that path extends so much further into the future than just the next few years or the next reign. The long-term vision behind the Duke's final gift is what makes it a total, brilliant masterpiece of dynastic planning. By handing these priceless pieces directly to Catherine, the Duke has guaranteed that they will eventually be passed down into the waiting hands of young Princess Charlotte. Another heartwarming comment from the global audience highlighted this exact beautiful future, noting that Charlotte will grow up to cherish these treasures with real gratitude, wear them with immense pride, and be taught the deep, dramatic history of her family, especially the story of her incredible great-grandmother, Princess Marina of Greece and Denmark. This is exactly how you keep history alive in a monarchy. You don't pass invaluable historical treasures to a figure who views them merely as a competitive trophy or a badge of convenience. You hand them to the women who will anchor the dignity of the British crown for the next century. It is the ultimate generational shield against the kind of institutional drift that has threatened to destabilize the family for decades. Naturally, this entire situation has sparked a massive, fiery conversation across the internet about the sheer poetic justice of what went down at the Cenotaph. People all over the digital space are calling it the ultimate, undeniable example of karma catching up in real time after decades of behind-the-scenes maneuvering. For years, certain individuals believed they could rewrite the public narrative, ride out the collective anger over past betrayals, and quietly claim absolutely everything the monarchy had to offer, from the grandest titles to the most sacred pieces in the historical vault. But as one American observer shared in the comments, just because a title was handed out doesn't mean someone is automatically entitled to grab whatever family history they want, and the public knows exactly what has been happening behind the scenes. The audience can spot the difference between a manufactured status on paper and authentic, unshakable royal dignity from a mile away. One American observer shared that they've watched this entire drama play out from across the Atlantic, noting that Catherine possesses a natural grace that would make her look stunning and dignified even in leather and beads, while expressing pure joy that the Duke chose the absolute perfect way to show his total distaste for Camilla's legendary greed and arrogance. Inside the palace gates, everyone knows that a major countdown has officially begun, and the shifting of power is completely irreversible. Prince William is watching all of this unfold with an ironclad resolve, and court insiders whisper that the future king will absolutely not tolerate even a single ounce of disrespect, cruelty, or manipulation directed toward his wife once he takes the crown. The era of bowing down to the demands of those who constructed their entire positions on the ruins of other people's happiness is coming to a very swift, very clinical end. King Charles may have chosen to let the Duke of Kent's decision stand because he simply couldn't fight the heavy, exhausting weight of his own past mistakes, but William and Catherine are looking entirely towards a new horizon. They are solidifying a future reign built on firm boundaries, absolute loyalty, and an unshakable reverence for the crown's true protectors. The internet is practically cheering for this new era, with fans saying that the old guard has finally spoken and delivered a clear message that nobody likes the constant power grabs, and they cannot wait to see true honor restored to the center of the realm. So, as the curtain officially falls on this extraordinary chapter of behind-the-scenes royal warfare, the 90-year-old Duke of Kent can rest easy knowing his final, most critical mission was fully and flawlessly accomplished. He didn't issue a fiery press release to the papers, he didn't write an explosive memoir to air out family dirty laundry, and he didn't leak petty grievances through anonymous sources to a sympathetic journalist. He did what a man of his legendary generation does best. He used the power of pure, disciplined action. He simply stood at the most solemn public ceremony in the land, turned his back entirely on the temporary presence of a Queen Consort, and whispered the long-term future of the monarchy directly into the ear of a true princess. The jewels are going exactly where they belong, the ancient rules of honor have been successfully upheld, and there isn't a single courtier, senior royal, or crown in existence with the standing to undo what a 90-year-old field marshal decided when he had absolutely nothing left to lose. The Duke isn't just writing a tiny footnote in this monarchy's history. He has successfully written the absolute last page of his own incredible story, making sure his mother's legacy remains pure and unbroken for generations to come. If you are as obsessed with this historic victory as the rest of the world, and you want to know exactly which pieces Catherine is now positioned to receive, and what each one means for the future of the British crown, that full, explosive breakdown is waiting for you in our very next video. We are diving deep into every single piece, every hidden history, and every woman who wore them before her, proving once and for all who really holds the true power inside this family right now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to absolutely smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss a single piece of unfiltered palace tea, and share your thoughts on the Duke's legendary power move in the comments below. Stay close, stay tuned, and we will see you in the next one because you are definitely not ready for what's coming next.